I could feel the weight of 100 eyes fixed on me as I stood on that stage, alone except for the nerves threading through my chest like piano wires. The investor lounge was tasteful, minimalist, white walls and angular sofas, but I found no comfort in any of it. The smell of black coffee floated in the air, a projector fan hummed near my head. I fumbled to click my laptop awake, hands unsteady, not from caffeine but anticipation. I was 30 years old, a junior architect at a middling Berlin firm, and this was my chance to show them who I could be. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I closed my eyes for a beat. I already knew it was my mother. She'd called twice this morning, just another gentle reminder about insurance sales, the safe route, the stable salary. "Don't set yourself up for disappointment, Lena," she'd said for the 10th time that week. I didn't answer. I straightened my skirt, turned toward the thin scatter of investors, sharp-suited, impassive. My voice sounded smaller than I'd imagined. "Good evening, my name is Lena Weber. I want to build places that make people feel home even if they're thousands of kilometers away." The first slide, open atriums, light pouring down onto communal tables, my design sketched over Berlin's old industrial bones. A cough shifting in seats, I pressed on. "The urban apartment block is dead, people want connection, nature, roots, but land is limited. I propose a project, community-centered, modular, adaptive. Refugees, families, students, different faces, one neighborhood. My plan blends prefabrication with heritage facades. It is possible, affordable, and..." A man in a blue scarf interrupted, lips flattening. "You're proposing social housing that looks like a tech campus? The city's broke, Miss Weber." A laugh spilt out from the row behind him. "Not exactly." My hand trembled on the clicker. I squeezed it tighter. Nobody cared. I looked out at the crowd, searching for a friendly face, but I only saw mild condescension, impatience. I tried to show a slide of the construction process, but the image froze. "Blue screen," whispered German, not kind. One woman, blonde in expensive glasses, sighed audibly. "It's idealistic, too, utopic." She tapped away on her phone. A man in a checkered jacket grinned. "Maybe one day Berlin becomes Dubai. For now, you're dreaming, Freyalines." The rest is a blur, the hurried thanks, the sinking apology, sweaty palms gathering my things. I left the stage in silence. A single polite clap from a man at the very back, then the next architect took the mic. I pushed through the glass doors into evening August warmth and let myself breathe at last. Tears threatened, I held them back. The city was humming as always, yellow streetlights slicing the dusk, the distant S-Bahn rattling over iron rails. I walked heart hollow to the U-Bahn. All along the way, old doubts pressed against my skin, a slow, poisonous ache. They'd told me for years it would be this way, my mother always gentle but firm. My brother told anyone who would listen that Lena makes drawings for poor people, no money in saving the city. My Oma had laughed from her armchair the first time I showed her blueprints, her hand batting the air. "We need real jobs, not castles in clouds." I wanted to believe that they mocked me only to spare me pain, but sometimes I sensed a sharper edge, fear, resentment. Each time I pushed forward, Berlin itself felt reluctant to let me belong. I spent that night awake, flattened on the narrow couch, staring at my ceiling fan as it ticked. Shadows drifted over my bookshelf, the spines of architecture treatises borrowed and never returned. By dawn, I'd packed up the brochures and stoppered my dreams again. I pressed my palm to the window, watched the city yawn back to life, and told myself I would find another way to keep going. But for months, my confidence was gone. The weeks unraveled. I kept working at the firm, copying details, making adjustments for others, nothing of my own. Text messages from my family arrived and went unanswered. Every call home ended with reminders. "Find something safe, Lena. Berlin is too hard for us. We were never meant to be great." Some nights grief crept in and left me almost numb, but sometimes in those stillest hours I found something else, clarity like a pocket of clear water after rain. At the office I kept my head down. My supervisor Herr Stoll noticed. "You seem quiet, burnt out." I told him I wanted to help on real projects, not just redraw other people's plans. He frowned, gazed distant. "You're clever, Lena, but you fight the tide too much. We build what the client pays for." That autumn, on a cold Tuesday after 2 months of silence, he summoned me late to his office. My parcel of space was covered in reject files and dull potted plants. He slid a folder toward me. "We have a development, Tempelhof, the old hangars. Most staff see it as lost cause, but maybe you'd pitch an idea for the competition. It's off the clock, unpaid. If we win the first round, then we talk money." My chest fluttered. "You're asking me." Someone has to. Worst case, we get nothing. Best case, you prove yourself. He looked at me with something like hope before returning to his notes. For days, I lived on tea and adrenaline, wandering the old airstrip after hours, my boots crunching gravel. I'd watch children race bikes beneath graffitied bunkers. In the wind, I heard echoes of another Berlin, of lost homes, new arrivals. My mind filled with shapes, green atriums, courtyards ringed by brick and glass, affordable but dignified. I sketched at kitchen tables in train cars on paper napkins. Every time I tried to share my sketches with my mother, she changed the subject. You'll get your hopes up again, Liebs. I stopped showing her, but that did not stop the work. By December, my model was finished. I presented it in a side room behind the others, a modular grid interwoven with old stone, community gardens pressed between 6 stories, a public cafe in the old control tower. My pitch was fast, shaky, but alive. For 2 months, nothing, then a call. We'd made it to the final round. Suddenly, my firm wanted to see more. Senior architects nodded, other teams whispered about the girl with the airport idea. Was it possible? It was. By spring, the project was chosen. Weber Block, winner of the city's pilot for affordable living. Funding was tight, but people wanted to help. Community leaders brought ideas, students cleaned the site, neighbors volunteered old images of Tempelhof to weave into new walls. Still, my family thought I was lost. The press called me idealistic. Magazine profiles ran my image next to captions, "Is Berlin ready for utopia?" Behind it all, construction was a mess, delays, fights over budgets, threats of cancellation. Months of mud and rain. Maury calls home, "Lena, maybe you should take a break, come home, teach." By then my days were steel and glass, sleepless, scarred fingers, endless lists. I thought it would swallow me, but I clung to my dream until it was real. The years scattered quick and slow, measured in site meetings, architectural protests, certificates tacked to temporary walls. Some days I stood on scaffolds in early light, ran my hands over raw brick and felt, if not joy then solemn certainty. Grief lingered, but clarity returned each time I saw the workers laugh in the morning sun, or when an old couple brought coffee for the construction crew. I felt everything and nothing the day they cut the ribbon, a fog of applause, photographers, city officials smiling for the cameras. My hair was stuck to my forehead, hands raw from weeks of labor. I smiled but felt out of place, as if it was someone else's life. But then the invitations went out and I was expected to bring my family. At first I imagined declining, the shame, the fear of new judgment, but something steadied me. I called home, my mother sounded hopeful, "You really built something. Come and see Mama." She arrived with my brother, awkward in his too-tight jacket, and my Oma, hair-pinned, cane tapping. They had not visited Berlin since my childhood. I led them through the new Weber block on a warm May afternoon. The city was in bloom, linden trees pushing out green, everything humming quietly with life. The facades gleamed, old stones buttressing bright glass. Children played on the green, women in hijabs and old men in cardigans sat on benches, watching. My mother's gaze swept over it all, cautious. I showed them the ground floor, a cafe bustling with strangers, golden light spilling on reclaimed wood. My mother trailed her fingers across a mosaic made from tiles rescued from demolished homes, each inscribed with a name. "This was the abandoned airfield?" she asked, near disbelief. I nodded. I wanted it to feel like belonging, even for people who lost everything. My brother whistled low, "And people live here." "Every apartment is filled," I said. A girl ran past, friends calling her from the courtyard. We climbed to the rooftop garden. Wind curled over planters alive with tomatoes and sunflowers, view stretching over the old runways to Berlin's skyline. A group of tenants were tending vegetables, laughing. A mural of the city, hand-painted, watched over us. Distant church bells rang in the air. "Lena," Oma said suddenly, voice softer than I remembered, "I didn't know you had all this in you." "It's beautiful." I turned to see them, my mother's eyes brimming with something she never let me see. My brother, quiet for once, hands buried deep in his pockets, looking at me and not looking away. The old wounds didn't vanish, but they didn't ache as before. A man from the city council approached, smiling, offering my mother a program, telling her about the project in rapid German. "Your daughter, Frau Weber," he said proudly, "she changed how we think about building in Berlin." People pressed my hand, curious tenants, reporters, friends from the early days. I wished I could give the feeling to my family, the certainty and fear, the sculpting of meaning from grief. Finally, I guided them back inside. We passed tenant families, artists, refugees, students, every type of Berliner, and each greeted me by name. My brother watched silent, then whispered, "They know you here." Late in the evening, most visitors gone, I showed them the wall of dedication, names inscribed, not just mine but the city's, for those arriving, those rebuilding. My mother said nothing for a full minute, then quietly, "I am sorry I doubted, I only wanted to keep you safe." "I know," I said, voice thick, "but sometimes you have to risk loss to give something back." We sat a while in the fading light. My grandmother squeezed my hand hard like she did when I was a girl and smiled. Outside, the city started singing again, the ringing trams, voices in a dozen languages. After they left, I stayed behind. I crossed the courtyard, sat on the edge of a new fountain under soft lamps. I heard laughter above, somewhere a record played. I felt, for the first time, the knot inside me begin to untangle. Grief hadn't left me. It never would. Loss is the price for having loved and for leaving, but clarity at last sat beside me. I no longer needed their approval to know I had come home, but it meant something that they had seen for themselves. A generation ago, my family fled to Berlin, immigrants building new lives from ruins. I had always wondered if I was meant to create or only to survive. Now I knew I was both. The city was changed, if only a little. I was changed more. Amidst glass and brick, laughter and old song, I had forged belonging from the impossible. I had come home not by returning, but by building what was needed and sharing it at last with those who once could not dream.